And we are the Non-Prophets. If you're listening to this, then Kevin, Jim, and I successfully made it to the secret recording bunker yesterday on the 31st of January and recorded the show. As you know, we're sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin, a non-profit educational organization for the promotion of positive atheism and the separation of church and state. Of course, that means we have enemies, very dangerous enemies. If you accept the risk and want to learn more about the ACA, you can call their voicemail at 512-220-6561 or visit their website at www.atheist-community.org. But do not, under any circumstances, reveal your location. We try to broadcast a recorded message every first and third Sunday of each month from 3 to 4:30 Central Time. If we succeed, you can join the chat room by following the directions at www.nonprofitsradio.com, but it's probably not secure. So draw your curtains, sweep for bugs, and keep your weapons close at hand while you listen to today's message.
I generally do keep my weapons pretty close.
All right.
Oh, shit.
So, I'm Denis Loubet.
I'm Kevin Stein.
I'm Jim Barrows.
Hey,
right.
Jim. We are without Jamie once again. He's feeling a little under the weather.
And it's the 1st of February,
Yes, it is.
2020.
Well, actually, it's the second when this goes out.
Oh, that's true.
It's the first
Well,
for us.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait, did I screw that? I screwed it up. God, it's so weird having a recorded thing. I screwed up my intro. Oh, well.
Yeah. That's okay.
Life goes on.
They'll forgive you.
Yeah.
How have you guys been?
Been doing okay till I got lost on my way here. It was really dumb.
I'm not going to ask.
Yeah, I mean, how do you get
Best
lost with
if you don't.
GPS?
Yeah.
How do you get lost with GPS?
In the era of GPS, well, by the time I said, my gosh, I need GPS, it was too late.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I turned mine on just because I like the ability for it to reroute me around traffic
Yeah.
and do that kind of thing.
Driving in here thinking, I got this, man. I'm going to be here early. Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah.
So I'm just,
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think I'm just old enough to have been taught how to read a map in school. So I always keep a Texas Atlas in my Yeah.
Good idea.
Yeah, that's...
It came in real handy a couple of years ago. 'Cause I didn't have any data, and I literally had to get from one end of the state to the other to get to a wedding.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And
Right.
Yeah.
I impressed myself. I hadn't read a map in probably a couple of years, and then,
And our states are bigger than most European countries.
very true.
Yeah.
So, yes, it is February 2020. Man.
January was a riot. Let's hope February gets better.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
So, it's been a little goofy already.
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, yes, it has.
Yeah.
And it's sad. 2020 sounds so futuristic, at least to me. You know? And it's like, no.
Yeah. Some of us are going backwards as fast as we can. Do the breathing.
Less futuristic, more madness.
Yeah.
It's
We're not quite dystopian yet, but the United
getting
States
there.
is well
Getting
on
there.
its way.
We're
to
working
doing it.
towards it.
But
Yep.
especially with folks like the preacher you've got.
Paula Kane White?
Yeah.
Oh, is that a
Well, I
segue?
did say goofy, so let's go ahead and segue into the goofy Paula Kane White.
We command all satanic pregnancies to miscarry right now. We declare that anything that's been conceived in satanic wombs, that it'll miscarry.
Wow. Okay. You got my genuine first listen reaction. This is a massive facepalm.
That's
Wow.
Yeah, I had to listen to it a couple of times when I first heard it because I couldn't believe that much stupidity was coming out of one person's mouth. But
It's,
so.
you know, it used to be that even Christians would consider, witch doctors to be, ludicrous but here they are being witch doctors. It's weird.
So that was a prayer.
Well, we need to say something nice about her, and at least she's speaking in complete sentences.
Yes.
Unlike,
More or less.
yeah. Unlike the man that she is supposedly spiritually advising.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is the
Wow.
president's spiritual advisor, whatever the hell that means.
Oh, God.
Yeah, first we need to define spiritual, which, no one has been able to do.
People ask why we're the laughing stock of the world right now.
I don't think they ask anymore. I think they pretty
No,
much know.
they know.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's all out there in the open.
Yeah.
All the dirty laundry. All of the really stupid stuff that we've been complaining about for years, and all of a sudden,
Man.
Yeah. So she is, if I had that right, it was a kind of a quick clip there, but she is praying for, or I guess advocating for the prayer of aborting satanic babies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought
She's
every
in
life
favor
was
of
precious.
abortion, so that's cool.
I thought every life was precious.
yeah.
Apparently not.
No, not the satanic ones. How you would know? I
The
don't.
weird thing, though, is if she thwarts all efforts to create the Antichrist, then she's thwarted God's plan.
Oh, man.
But is it his?
Because
ineffable
according to
plan?
God's plan, there has to be an Antichrist.
Yeah.
So
Well,
what's wrong with this woman?
well, and also there's
Isn't she
several of the-
supposed to be a Christian?
Yeah, and there are some who think that he's going to be riding along with the four horsemen and
Oh, yeah,
creating
yeah,
God's
yeah.
plan and bringing about the end of the world. So
But if we prevent that from happening, then God's plan is kapoof.
yeah, there's a lot of that.
It's weird.
Then she is very much at odds with the vice president because he is trying to bring about the apocalypse.
Right?
So
Yeah,
weird.
The Dominionists. It's like
Yeah.
how do you have that much mental conflict in your head? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, they really should be.
How much that
If
dissonance?
they're
How does-
looking forward to Armageddon, then they should be praying for the Antichrist.
yeah, and that would make sense.
Yeah.
They're all a bunch of. Never mind.
But
I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt that she was just going on, rambling and it kind of slipped out. And she didn't
possible.
need to say something that is supposed to conflict with her worldview entirely.
well, she's also praying or casting spells
Yeah.
to protect,
Yeah.
the president.
But
So
you're supposed to be against the devil,
Yeah.
and the devil's trying to do the Antichrist.
right.
So you have to be against the Antichrist. Yet if you're against that, you're against God. So
Right.
it's like really weird.
Well,
They really tied themselves up in a neat
Against
little package.
abortion in all cases, unless they're satanic babies.
in a satanic womb.
No,
In a
wait,
satanic womb.
And yeah, I'm not real sure.
does the satanic womb make a satanic baby, or does the satanic baby make a womb satanic?
The
then does
crazy is so far out there. We could probably say both.
How do you tell?
Is it like a sum of its parts thing? I don't know. Does the satanic baby make the woman satanic?
What sounds the craziest? We'll go with that.
I mean,
It's hard to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
your womb glows with an eerie reddish light. You're satanic. I don't know. It's weird.
How many of these babies are out there? Or I guess were out there. Presumably this worked. And they're
Assuming
all-
the spell worked, yeah.
Yeah.
Or the prayer, yeah. Spell, prayer, who cares?
So how many did they get rid of? I don't know.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
And did it work? Does she actually have the power she thinks she does?
And was that then conspiracy to commit murder?
I would say yes.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah.
Definitely.
If her magic spell murdered babies, then yeah, she's a killer.
Well, that's kind of what the religious right wants to push anyway, right? Is charging people with murder who have abortions. So
Yeah, I mean, if you plan to rob a bank and you go through all the steps except for actually doing it, you've still committed a crime technically.
Yeah.
Or I guess you did say conspiracy to commit murder, so that's a little bit more apt.
I think maybe to expand on it, it might be the better way to look at it is, and then you go through and you rob a criminal's bank, a bank for criminals only. Is that still robbing a bank?
Yes.
Yeah. And also,
Dexter Morgan was still a
if I
murderer.
can go on,
Yes.
Yeah.
if I can go on a weird tangent, if you pray before the big game to win, in other words, you're asking an all-powerful being to interfere in the.
Right. Are you cheating?
Are you cheating? You're going through all the motions of cheating.
Yeah, yeah. I think at that point you are. Yeah.
I think you're right.
You're cheaters,
I hadn't
man.
thought of that.
If you're not cheating, your sportsmanship is at least in question.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, when I was in the Army, we had a saying: if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Yeah, I
You
was
get
gonna
caught,
say
you weren't trying hard enough.
Oh boy! Right. Yeah, there's
same.
that.
Yes.
Oh, geez.
However, I think
Cheaters.
I think I can at least match the crazy.
Okay.
Oh?
Shoot.
Yeah. So here we go. From Patheos, our friendly atheist, Christian TV host. Hillary Clinton may have murdered Kobe Bryant with witchcraft. So
Another religious murder. What?
It's always got to be Hillary. It's always got to be her.
Kobe
So
Bryant.
this is right-wing commentator Chris McDonald, who claimed at one point that Hillary Clinton had made a covenant with the evil one. And here's the full quote. This is the only wild conspiracy theory. This is McDonald speaking, the preacher. This is the only wild conspiracy theory I'm going to ever toss out there on this program. I normally don't do this, but this is just a food for thought question.
God.
We all know that it is pretty much a given that Mrs. HRC is a witch, McDonald continued.
Okay, well, that's a given. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Sure.
it.
Can a witch cast a spell on something like this to cause death and not be known? I'm just throwing that out. I don't know anything about this stuff. You do. Is that possible? She wanted to get rid of Kobe? Please, Right Wing Watch, don't be putting in there that me and Corey are saying this. This is just a food for thought question. Do you think Hillary would be able to do it if she wanted to do it?
I mean,
Well, she's already got this, this elaborate headquarters underneath the pizza place. So it's like
food for thought.
I love it, though. He's directly addressing Right Wing Watch, saying, hey, guys, don't put that I am actually saying this is what happened, because it'll make me sound crazy.
yeah.
Do you think this guy was dropped on his head as a kid? Just food for thought.
It's just a thought that he has his head so far up his ass that, it could be.
Oh,
Right.
geez.
And he doesn't even, he just says, could she have wanted Kobe dead? And it's like,
Why?
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 Where's the rest of the conspiracy theory? Come on, guys. I mean, it's a half-baked conspiracy theory. We don't have the reason why. Was he getting ready to turn?
Astronomers tell us the star Betelgeuse is dimming. Is that her fault?
Apparently,
Is she doing that?
Could be.
Is Hillary
You're just
Clinton
asking questions.
dimming Betelgeuse?
Yeah.
You're just asking questions. It could be.
Could
the
be.
fact if she wanted to.
If she could snuff out our sun like that.
Well,
So this guy's a pastor.
Yeah. That's the right-wing commentator.
an idiot. Okay, right.
Right-wing commentator is actually what they say. So, he's completely out there. And
Wow.
I mean, once you accept one thing as true without sufficient evidence,
Yeah.
how far are you from going down this rabbit hole, down this path?
Beliefs have
Honestly.
consequences.
Yeah, this is some really sloppy faux skepticism. This is embarrassing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, and just to claim she's a witch, first of all, I mean, I really should have gone and researched that and see what that claim was, just for the giggles of it. But
Well, Christians like to do that sort of thing and just, oh, it's not me calling for this atrocity. It's God. I'm just the messenger.
Yeah.
yeah, well, there's that scene out of West Wing, right, where she says, it's not me that hates gays, it's God that hates gays. And you get that whole Bible quote right back.
Yeah.
And pointing out that, well, if you accept that as true, then you also have to not eat shellfish. You have to not wear clothes made out of two different fabrics.
Yeah.
You have all this other stuff, and if you don't accept it all, then you're not really I define a good Christian as someone who follows the Bible exactly.
Yeah, you got to follow all of it. You can't just pick and choose.
Westboro Baptist Church, great Christians, awesome Christians.
Yes.
Horrible
people.
human beings.
Yes.
They're bad because they take the Bible seriously and literally.
Yeah, and there's so much that's bad in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think the wearing mixed fabric thing and eating shellfish, that kind of gets into a little bit of the difference between, I want to say, covenant theology and dispensationalism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now you're using big words. You're just going to confuse people.
You might want to explain that for the.
Oh, man. I need math here.
Dispensationalism.
I think dispensationalism is the idea that God kind of dispenses new information and upgraded moral systems throughout the generations, and that's a oh man, I'm probably butchering.
That's kind of
this.
weird because they say he's unchangeable, but I guess
Yeah.
I guess it's we that are changeable, so he gives the messages that we can understand.
Except that
I'm sure I'm butchering this, but that's kind of it. Two different reasons for why moral systems have kept up, and you can still be religious and still keep up with secular morals.
Right. But a lot of what, the Greeks had a lot of those morals Plato and Aristotle, those guys were, within 500 years of the writing of the Bible. So why is their stuff, we can debate, I mean, they were kind of pro-slavery. We can debate that and say, no, this is why they're wrong. But a lot of the stuff they were saying about ethics is still true. And so why were humans able to create stuff that has stood the test of time, but apparently God can't in terms of ethics and morals?
I mean, I know the answer.
It was kind of rhetorical.
The spirit of rhetorical.
But yeah, those are some crazy stuff coming.
Right. Dispensationalism, belief in a system of historical progression as revealed in the Bible, consisting of a series of stages in God's self-revelation and plan of salvation.
You saved me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because we were going to get something in the comments. And then covenant theology is a little bit different. I really shouldn't.
Covenant theology and dispensationalism.
I shouldn't. We really need Matt here to parse this out for us.
I think we just did a pretty good job of turning that.
Yeah. We'll give an update next episode.
Wow. Yeah. So that's there's all kinds of that kind of crazy going on.
Too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Hillary Clinton is a witch, or Hillary Clinton is a demonic thing. I listened to a lot of Knowledge Fight, which breaks down and calls out a lot of the lies and the propaganda, specifically out of Alex Jones.
Right.
And you get
That's a full-time job.
Oh my God. They put out a lot of episodes because, he does a daily show.
Yeah.
Right? And he and a lot of other people in his conspiracy realm, that is a daily thing. It is, they always are talking about how demonic Hillary Clinton is. And they've been doing it for like decades too.
Fucked up. That is totally fucked up.
She has always been a demonic image for them, basically.
And Christians wonder why they're
scary as shit.
Losing ground in the war of ideas.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Yeah, because they keep going back to stuff that they can't prove. Oh, jeez.
Attacking things for no reason.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except their fevered imagination.
Yeah. It's a good show there. It's very, very entertaining.
Yeah. Well, we kind of hate to tell you guys this, but we did those 2 comedic bits for the next bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually we've got a whole bunch of emails.
Yeah. Now lower your comedic expectations.
Yeah, we should get into a couple of emails. You
All
want
right.
to
Shall I?
pick one? Let's actually let's go with the 2 oldest. These are both from Chuck from Arizona.
Let's see. Yes, these are both Chuck in Arizona. So, if theists in a debate can declare infinite magic at any time, why can't atheists do the same? For instance, the Big Bang was a supernatural bang, so it didn't need a cause. Haha, there you go. Checkmate. theists, the universe is supernaturally life-supporting, so it didn't need a designer. Ha-ha! And even if supernatural things need designers, then gods need designers, so who made God? This seems like it would be a lot easier than reporting scientific findings and makes God unnecessary, just like science does. Not a bad. Well, one of my favorite things is to come up with irrational arguments, emotional arguments against religion.
Yeah,
because it seems that that's what they listen to most avidly is emotional arguments. So okay, let's give them emotional arguments then.
yeah, and he's basically advocating reductio absurdum.
Yeah.
And sometimes you will hear that. I mean, we'll hear if the universe if everything needs a creator, who created God? You'll hear that one.
Yeah. Right.
And the other ones, reductio absurdum is good, but it doesn't really advance. Those don't advance the argument.
Yeah. But of course, and the only response they can give is special pleading.
Right.
Yeah. Ours didn't need a creator.
Yeah.
Well, I do enjoy the comedic value. At least the first half I didn't quite care for because they're not. We're supposed to be better than that. Our arguments are
logical, rational.
So that would be my answer. Is that's why we wouldn't.
But the thing is,
kind of answers.
the rational arguments often don't work.
I know.
So if we keep doing the same thing expecting a different result.
Right.
Then we're insane. So
I'd rather not stoop to that level, though.
Yeah,
I know, but
those
I'll do it.
And those, for me, those are also borderline mocking.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I
sure.
don't want to
said,
walk to that line.
Comedic.
Sure, but I'd like to seriously ask them. If you could go back in time and rescue Jesus from the crucifixion, would you do it? They have to answer no.
Right. Exactly.
And that makes them the villain.
Yeah.
And so.
Can God make a rock?
It's
so
an
big
emotional
you can't lift
argument. It makes them uncomfortable to be a Christian. For just that moment. Yeah, it's not a logical argument by any stretch. We got another one. All right. While there may be, this is another one from Chuck, while there may be good reasons to punish undesirable human behavior, such as deterring future such behavior, why do people seem to feel that punishment is desirable even if no one gains from it? Isn't that just revenge? So who benefits from hell? Won't those who achieve heaven be above the desire for revenge? And those in hell won't learn anything that will benefit them later? Surely God could keep the sinners away from heaven without torturing them. So isn't divine justice really just God's revenge for disobedience? And why would the perfect being be engaged in one of the worst human failings? Yeah.
Yeah. So on the punishment thing, and this is something that I find also fascinating, that the creator of mankind uses a tool that is so ineffective as punishment.
Yeah.
In the 17th century to the early 19th century in England was a period known as the Bloody Code, and basically it was called that because almost every crime you could commit ended in you dying.
Okay.
And the death sentence. And
Wow.
It failed on a number of levels. It not just failed, it backfired. It backfired on a number of levels.
There are some unintended consequences with mass death.
Yeah. So one of the aspects of it was they're going to make these public to terrify the population into not committing crimes.
Right.
And it turned into, human beings what they are. It turned into these great big social events of the week or the month or however often the locale did it. And not only that, but they were supposed to feel, sorry and afraid for the victim,
right,
the criminal. And very often they didn't.
Right.
They developed these elaborate call and responses from the criminal back to the crowd and the crowd back. And, they didn't actually, and if he had, gone to confession, this was now a pure soul going to heaven. And they kind of envied that. So the whole thing of doing this in public to terrify and to inspire people to not commit crimes turned into a positive social event.
Wow.
So that was the first way it backfired.
That's surreal.
And the second way it backfired is it had absolutely no effect on the number of crimes being committed.
Right.
None whatsoever.
Well, it's kind of like, listening to the movie with the dinosaurs, goddamn it, Jurassic Park, where he's going, life will find a way. Well, I'm sitting there here and going, human nature will find a way to fuck it up.
But we can fast forward to the Netherlands. I think it's the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And they're actually in the process of closing prisons.
Yes, I hear.
Because their criminal population is declining rapidly. One of the problems they have is they may be closing them too quickly because some people need longer-term care. Now, notice I said care, not punishment.
Yeah.
Because they're doing things like reducing poverty, which is the number one cause of a lot of crime. They're making sure they're taking care of people's mental health. They're taking care of people's physical health.
Wow.
And so when they do that, guess what happens to crime? Goes to nearly zero.
Wow.
So why is the creator of mankind, the one who should understand us the best, doing something so stupid?
Yes, using the demonstrably ineffective means.
Right. Yeah, especially and it's especially ineffective when you realize that, the farther away the punishment is, the less effective it is.
Right.
And that punishment is at the end of our lives.
Yeah.
Yep.
We have plenty of time to go to confession, folks.
Right.
Just saying.
Well, it kind of touches on my one of my free will deals where I'll say we don't have free will, which means we aren't responsible for our actions, and people go, oh well, that will cause chaos and stuff, and I go, well, no, there's already people we consider not responsible for their actions.
Right.
They're in asylums all over the planet, right?
Yeah.
And they're getting care and they're getting need. What if we treat everybody as if they aren't responsible for their actions? And if they do bad, then we treat them.
Right. It goes to a lot of the Northern European countries are now being run by women, and they're actually focusing on the happiness of the population over GDP.
Gosh, if only.
Right. And we know from companies who focus on making sure their employees are happier, that they make more money and they do better. What's going to happen to those Northern European countries who are already some of the happiest in the world?
Yeah.
Decide, hey, we're going to double down on this. What happens to your productivity? What happens to the advancement of science, the advancement of the arts? What happens to all of society, their societies, as they move forward? And here we are still focused on how do we squeeze out a penny on a $1 million deal? How do we get the extra penny?
They're gonna
it doesn't make
leapfrog past us.
Yeah.
We're just gonna be.
And that will eventually move down to the rest of Europe as they are more successful.
Yeah, this is how a first world country becomes a third world country.
Yeah, and that's the path I think we're on right now. If we don't continue to focus on at least taking care of people's mental and physical health.
Yeah. Circling back to the the example you gave of a company treating you well. I mean, I've worked for places. One of my last jobs a couple of years ago. One of my coworkers, he almost died because he got electrocuted. And he didn't have any safety equipment on whatsoever. They were violating OSHA codes in order to skirt their competition.
Right.
Oh, no.
And
cutting corners, yeah.
So it was about a half a dozen ways that he could have died in this accident. Our boss showed up and he said, oh, guys, I'm going to, this is terrible. I'm going to help you out. We're going to get some safety equipment for you. He showed up about 30 minutes later with a single pair of leather gloves. And there was there was 6 guys on this team.
Right.
And he shows up with one pair of gloves. And that was the safety equipment that he got all of us to keep us safe.
Wow. Well, then.
They didn't give a damn about any of
No.
this. I quit that week.
Yeah.
And now I work somewhere where I'm actually valued as a friggin' human being.
Right.
And I work a lot harder here.
Yeah.
I actually feel valued as a person. I didn't put in the work quite so much when I knew that they didn't really care if I literally died while I was working for them.
Yeah. 37 Signals has done, they're a technology company, and they've done something very similar where they'll do Fridays off, work half days from like Thanksgiving to Christmas and stuff like that. And their employees actually don't take the days off. They don't want to. They work because they want to.
Yeah, people like working.
Yeah. Well, it's not just that like working, so they feel valued and they feel like they're accomplishing something and they want to actually get the mission done and do the thing they're supposed to do.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it kind of puts a hole in that whole thing about like, oh, if you pay people too much, then they won't work as hard. That's not true.
Yeah.
What? No.
Well, then, what do CEOs do? Just lie around doing nothing?
Yeah, or...
Good grief.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, or if you provide a universal basic income, then no one will ever get a job, period. That's not true either.
No. People will then be able to start their own businesses. They'll be able to do all sorts of stuff with a safety net where they don't have to worry where their next meal is going to come from while they're succeeding or failing, you know?
Yeah. A lot of these things are like truthisms. They just kind of get repeated over and over and over, and people don't necessarily look into them, and they just take it for granted.
And they're such crap.
Yeah, or they raise the few bad examples. I mean, if we do go with a universal basic income, will there be people who take advantage of it? Yes.
Sure.
Well.
Yeah.
But we don't need to do a lot of crazy stuff like they do for the safety net we do have.
Yeah.
It's just so chock full of stuff. I had a friend of mine.
There's so much overhead with the...
Yeah. But she couldn't take a raise because it would put her over the amount and she would lose all of her benefits.
Oh.
The raise was 10 cents.
Good grief.
Jeez.
She couldn't take a 10-cent raise. And it's just like, how is anybody supposed to get ahead and get out of poverty and get off the welfare system if you don't allow them to? If you put them in a position where they have to choose the health care for their kids and themselves or don't work or work and lose all of it.
Hard to call it. It's easy to call it an unintended consequence, but is it?
I think when it got started, it was. They didn't think it all through. But now we know, I mean, they have to know that this is what's going on.
Right.
And it is, universal basic income, universal health care. What's the meme that's going around lately? We used to think that people lived longer in France because they ate baguettes and butter and cream. Turns out it was just universal health care.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah.
I don't do anything on Facebook anymore, so.
Yeah. It is just, how do you, and we're a Christian nation. You would think the Christians would want to be Christ-like. What did Christ do? He healed the poor.
Yeah.
He took care of the poor, and he preached to the poor. He didn't preach to the richest, right? He wasn't the spiritual advisor to the emperor of Rome.
Right.
He didn't, rent a...
Took a scourge to the money changers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle,
right?
Rich man to get into heaven.
He didn't buy a coliseum and turn it into his personal preaching pulpit.
He didn't tell you to keep everything that's yours, and never give anything to anyone else.
Right.
He didn't say, sell all you own and give the proceeds to the poor. No, never said anything. Oh, wait, no, he did.
Yeah, and then he didn't make a big deal out of the fact that a woman who was poor gave not from her excess, but from what she had. And make that a big deal out of that. So none of this apparently, all this is apparently lost. And like most atheists, we know their Bible better than they do.
Yes.
Or at least American atheists. So.
Yeah, that's for damn sure.
Man.
Okay, that was a good email.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Some good ideas to chew on, Chuck. Thank you.
Yeah. This one's a little bit longer, so it's a little wordy. And this is from who?
This is from Theodore.
Okay.
And let's see. It's a wall of text, sort of, so I'm going to do a paragraph or two here. I believe that our consciousness ends when our brain dies. But because there will be brains born after you've ceased to exist, it follows that one of those new brains' consciousness is what will follow. It is a matter of what exists versus what doesn't. Just like you do exist, but those that died before your birth no longer exist. They are not in some blackness or a void of nothing. There is only something. They are no longer a part of the something we call existence. There is only what does exist, and only experience is experienced. Therefore, your death will be followed by someone else's beginning. That new being will have no connection to you whatsoever, except for the fact that it will exist at that point in time when you no longer exist. Again, there is only what exists.
I'm not sure if that tracks.
I don't follow that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the point is he's making there either.
I mean, you can say that the energy of, like, when your body breaks down, that energy doesn't dissipate into nothing. That eventually goes into something else. The plants that grow around your dead body, say. Yeah. Or whatever else. But that doesn't necessarily lead to another conscious being, especially not necessarily another conscious human. I don't know.
Right.
There's a bit of a leap there that I'm not.
Yeah, I'm not following this. He goes into souls, and it works if they're souls or not.
Well, you're presuming a soul.
It's weird. This would be true even if brains are not the source of consciousness. If it turns out that there are souls and they are the source of consciousness, then if the soul ever ceases to exist, then if there's a new soul, if the soul ever ceases to exist, then if there's a new soul born after that first soul died, then it will be the new soul.
I think he's trying to say that once you're dead, and there's no transfer of consciousness.
Well, I'm going with
Buddhist
that.
The idea of being reborn doesn't actually exist.
But I think his means of explaining that is really convoluted.
Yeah. Sounds like if the soul... If the soul doesn't go away and the soul goes somewhere else, and that's the consciousness, there's a finite number of souls that just,
I don't know,
that just keep going into new bodies.
Yeah, how do souls?
I don't know.
Yeah.
So how is a new soul created?
Well, supposedly the God creates the souls, as far as I know.
Yeah, so the God had to create a finite number of souls, I guess. And
I don't know that.
And the world will end when it's out of souls. It's called the cuff, I think.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced by the soul.
And that makes the brain sort of a radio for the soul.
Yeah.
The soul broadcasts and the brain picks it up, and that explains why. If you damage the brain, then the signal gets garbled. But, you've got this soul out there. Well, and I don't know.
Yeah, so if that were the case, how would brain tumors that change personality?
It's garbling the message because your radio is busted.
But does that make the person still responsible for acting on the radio?
Oh, that's a good question. If your radio is busted, why are you being punished?
Right. So
the soul is fine.
Yeah. So, like, if you're a soldier and you hear a garbled command to do X, and the commanding officer really meant you to do Y, and you do X, should you be prosecuted for doing X and not Y if that's what you heard?
Yeah.
What about, like, schizophrenia?
Yeah.
Or multiple personality disorder?
Right.
Would that be multiple souls?
Or you could go maybe the Scientology route, and
the little
those
Klingon things.
Yeah,
they're not Klingons. They're
little Thetans that are
Thetans. Yeah,
Thetans, yes.
Not Klingons.
So you've got multiple Thetan spirits clinging onto you, and they're interfering and butting in every now and then.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Except that some people don't have an inner voice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Throwing in souls doesn't really solve anything. It only creates more questions.
It does make it a little bit more convoluted, yeah. But a little more interesting.
But if we're just brains, then it's all explainable. I mean, once the organization of this massive, tissue in your head, once it disorganizes to the point where it no longer functions, then you're dead.
Right.
Right. It's the arrangement of the matter in there that's important. Wow.
Yeah.
What do you think about the soul idea?
it really creates more problems
Yeah.
Yeah.
than it solves. My sister once asked me the same question, and she was like, "Well, what do you think?" And referring to death, and I was like, "Well, all kinds of things happen after I die. To me, worms eat me, then poop me."
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know that if you don't remember your past lives, if your soul is trying to learn lessons, and that's why it's entering the body, and it doesn't remember what those lessons are, how is it learning anything?
Right.
Right? I mean, lessons are learned in stages, and you have to remember what came before. And I mean, that's all the way I've always learned stuff, right? You start with the basics and move forward.
Yeah.
So,
Who was it that thought that we were born with just innate knowledge? It was early philosopher. It was like, we know everything, and we just have to rediscover it.
I don't know. I hadn't heard that. That's interesting.
Really? Oh, shit.
I would like to find that.
Yeah. Where does
I figured you would know it. At any of the three of us.
Yeah, I actually hadn't heard that. Not as a philosopher. I mean, that doesn't. It doesn't sound like anything Aristotle would necessarily.
where does the data go when you smash the hard drive?
And what does everything mean?
Yeah,
Right,
that
at
never
that
really
point.
spoke to me. That didn't
Yeah.
make any sense.
If you know everything, what does everything mean? Because everything means something different in 3,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago than it does today, right? Because everything, say, 100 years ago, everything was much simpler then. There was a lot less of everything to know.
True.
You didn't have electricity. You didn't have cell phones. You didn't have any of this stuff that we have today that has complicated our lives and in some cases made our lives easier. But none of that was there. So what does everything mean, and at what point in time do you mean everything? That's my problem with that statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that means.
Well, so what yeah, I'm specifically talking about at different points in time, we knew a different amount of stuff as a society, right? If you go back to Greek times, they didn't know where lightning came from or how it was built. They didn't know a lot about how weather systems worked. They didn't really understand light. They had some ideas about it, but they didn't really, they thought it was particles, and it's kind of both. Particle and a wave.
Yeah.
Radio waves, completely didn't know anything about those at all.
Right.
Didn't really understand the germ theory of disease. They didn't understand. So when you say everything, what does that encompass?
Yeah.
Right. Does that encompass everything we know and everything we don't know?
Right. As a society. Right.
Right.
And everything we will discover as time moves forward.
Yeah, I feel like that
Okay.
that
That's
particular philosophical theory necessitates a soul. Because
Yeah, it
it
necessitates
would
something.
have to harbor all of that innate knowledge.
Right. I also made a movie, something like that, Babies.
Yeah.
Where
Okay.
I think it was Babies.
Baby Geniuses.
Yeah, right.
What?
So the premise was you get newborns up to a certain age before they learn how to talk.
Yeah.
And all the baby noises that they make are them talking. And when they're banging on music, they're actually playing music. It just sounds banging to us.
Right.
And so they have this whole little world where they're dealing with themselves and talking about stuff. And it's a cute little movie. If you just want some brain fluff.
I think they've made a few of them, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it is purely brain fluff because it is slightly comedic and slapstick. So.
Oh, interesting. All right.
Yeah.
So actually, to kind of latch onto that is the idea that the God, right? We require faith to believe in God, and it's all a test, but it's a much harder test nowadays than it was a few generations ago. It actually requires, I would say, more faith now than it would have back before we had a lot of these answers.
Yeah, the God of the gaps is basically kind of what you're talking about, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, God is kind of testing humanity, supposedly. So why kind of fucked up that your parents and your grandparents and your great-grandparents were doing, basic math, and you've got to do trigonometry.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I sometimes try to help people with software engineering, and I think about the stack of things that goes into a modern application, and I learned it all incrementally over years, because when I started, a lot of this stuff didn't exist, And I think about this whole stack of things that has to work together just to make a simple program work. And I'm like, I don't even know where to start telling you to do this, because I didn't learn it in school. I didn't learn it in a formal way. I learned it by doing it as I go. And yeah, that slow accretion of knowledge that as we push almost every area of humanity, we've pushed forward, and we know more now than we used to, except one, God.
Right. This keeps diverging instead of converging on an answer.
Yeah, it's the same 50 questions. It's the same 50 arguments that we hear over and over and over again. And nobody comes up with any new, and we don't solve any of them.
Yeah.
So.
And the very idea of an omniscient being testing anything is weird.
Yeah. Well, the whole omni is a giant paradox, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure.
So, it's the kids' question that we used to ask for girls in elementary school, and that was, Homer asked, "Can God create a rock so big he can't lift it?"
Right. Classic.
Yeah, that's the problem with the omnis.
Right.
Omniscience, omnipotence, omnibenevolence.
It's weird. It suggests that you can do things that the God can't.
Right. And clearly we can.
Yeah.
I
can make things too big for me to lift,
Right. Yeah, I have to be.
I can do it, but the God can't. It's weird.
Well, some theologists are saying now maximally powerful. Without really defining what maximal power is.
Right. My inability to lift something is a weakness, and weakness is something that God doesn't have, and so it's not considered a disadvantage.
Well, he has just enough power to create the universe and no more. He's not actually
apparently,
and that's only to get around the paradox of being omnipotent.
It still requires the special pleading of God wasn't created; He has to be eternal.
Right. Worse than the special pleading, because special pleading is a fallacy. Doesn't mean the argument's wrong. Just means the argument is weak.
Right.
My real problem with it is there's no way to prove it. I can't prove it or disprove it.
Can't falsify it? Gosh.
Yeah. Oh, I can't even truthify it. Right.
Right.
The opposite of falsify. Yeah. I can't prove it true, and I can't prove it false. I can't do anything with it.
Right.
So, what good does it do me in the long run?
Well, it doesn't do us any good because we're atheists. But
as a Christian, what good?
We would like to know what's real and what's not.
Right.
And if there's a God out there whose followers can drink any poison without ill effect, I want to know. And you know what? We can test that.
Only Pentecostals, though.
Okay. Well, if they've got the right God, then there should be no problem to test
right?
it.
Yeah. And they can handle poisonous serpents, provided they have milked the serpents of all the poison.
Yeah.
But I got some Drano. I mean, they want to test the...
Yeah.
Hey, let's do this last email.
All right. Let's see. This one is from Patrick. After listening to your episode from January 18th, I was struck by the story regarding legal threats against librarians in Missouri by Representative Ben Baker for letting certain books out, for lending certain books out to minors. You addressed multiple issues with this proposal, most particularly the dichotomy between the First Amendment and parental rights. However, I never heard another practical issue. How does the library know who is or isn't a minor? Do we now have to provide ID to check out a book? Once again, the party of small government proposes to grow it at every level and not for any worthwhile reason. To paraphrase a question posed on the show, could a librarian prevent a 16-year-old from checking out an R-rated video? And he insists not legally they can't.
So, I haven't had to get a library card for a number of years, but I kind kind of distinctly remember. Sorry about.
They have been.
So one of the problems is he's making an assumption that all libraries are run by the government.
Right.
And we are sitting in a library that is very distinctly not run by the government. Our own library here. So not all libraries are necessarily run by the government. So
Right.
Censorship doesn't happen here.
Right.
And we require some form of ID so that if you forget to bring your book back, we can say,
We
hey,
can contact you.
Right.
And, yeah.
So I don't know that's another big government type thing when you're dealing with a library where they have to get the book back or fine you or recover the cost of the book. Because some books are cheap, they're $5 and some are $500. So we want to make sure that we get those back. So I don't know. Don't really agree with his idea that the ID thing is bad.
That it's onerous and,
Yeah.
and would prevent people. Yeah. But it's some would draw that conclusion.
Yeah,
That it's governmental overreach and
Yeah.
stuff. Why are they telling me what I can read and not read?
yeah,
Yeah.
that part I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
The government should not be in that business. Should the government be in the business of providing material content that society has said is not appropriate for certain ages? I think that's a different question.
Yeah. Patrick mentions there is no federal law against a child watching an R-rated movie. It is enforced by the industry, not law. Likewise, there is no law prohibiting any child from reading any book, and there is zero value in getting the government involved in any way in these matters.
Okay, so what I was going to say before I, whatever the hell happened to me,
Tried to cough out a lung?
I don't know.
It's the Antichrist.
Coronavirus or the,
There you go.
Oh, it was Hillary Clinton.
oh, shit.
Damn
Yeah.
that woman.
What I was going to say is I think I got, it's probably been probably 10 years or something since I even had a library card. And I remember distinctly being surprised by how much identification I needed to get said card. So in order to get the card, you have to provide, at least where I, got mine, where I grew up, a pretty good amount of information. So your age and your birthday and all that is probably on your card, and you can't check out anything from the library without a card.
Right.
So,
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, and it goes back to my earlier statement about, they need to know enough to contact you to get the book back or to find you
Right.
if necessary. Do they need to know your age?
in order to get the card, at least,
Yeah, but I
again,
mean-
at least where I grew
Well,
up.
why are they asking for that?
Right, and that's probably because their local community would be very up in arms if they had R-rated material. Like, I think
Start
too many
handing it out
libraries
to
have-
minors. And
Yeah, 'Cause I don't think too many libraries would have X-rated material.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we mentioned when we were talking about it. They don't have, pornography at the library. They probably have some art that is mildly pornographic, but that's not the same thing.
They got the Bible. That's
Yeah.
mildly pornographic. But
and pretty large on violence. If you don't want your kids exposed to violence, you
Lots
should
of
probably,
violence.
Yeah, avoid the Bible like the plague. Libraries are tough, and they're in a tough position in trying to have books that people can read and be able to get them back, and then not piss off the local yokels when they do things like have reading nights. Now my brain has gone completely blank.
apparently, I read something recently that lots of people use the library.
Yeah, and for more than just sleeping in.
Cool.
Yeah. So
They're vital.
still.
This is still
In
an
this
attempt-
age of
Yeah.
Kindle and all that stuff, still the library thrives.
The law is still, I think, is an attempt to fix a problem that doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
So it is meaningless. I think it is a meaningless feel-good law that they don't really expect to get passed. It is just something that this guy can say, oh, I tried to do this.
Right. I pandered to my constituents.
Yeah.
It's also, I think, probably a part of Project Blitz, where they're attempting to throw all of this stuff out at once and see what they can get through and what they can't, and then use what they get through to leverage more stuff to get through.
Unrelenting.
Yeah, and you're losing the war of ideas. Don't cheat by trying to make your ideas law.
Yeah,
Really
that's
bad.
kind of more or less what I was about to say. When you're kind of the culture war is very much real, and they have very much been losing it year after year, decade after decade, and we've reached a point where I think they have realized, a lot of these lawmakers, a lot of these high-level religious figures, they've realized there's no going back culturally, so they have no other choice. They have to codify this stuff into law.
Double down and
they have to do this, otherwise their religion's going to die out.
hopefully it's the death throes. That's all I can.
The numbers seem to indicate that the nuns are growing, which is good. Not people in habits, but people who say that they have no religious affiliation.
Well, that also, with that, I don't mean to cut you off again, but with that, kind of the wooey crowd is also growing at the same time. Nuns are growing, but a lot of those nuns are people whose beliefs aren't really any better.
Spiritual.
Yeah, spiritualists.
So even the woos to the woos don't, as a fundamental part of that woo, in most cases, have killing people as part of the religion. As a Christian, they're supposed to kill atheists like us. They're supposed to stone to death people. They're supposed to.
Thank God they don't take it all completely literally.
Yeah. So they, even the woos to the woo are still not quite as militant to the point where they're willing to do violence in most cases. There's always exceptions to the rule, but Deepak Chopra, the woos to the woo, is not advocating violence in any way, shape, or form.
No, and he doesn't have a lot of political power either.
Right.
They're all kind of disparate little niche groups that don't have a hub of political power that they are able to throw around with,
Right. I've never met a Wiccan who is really interested in doing the kinds of things that Christians are doing.
They'll come to your door.
Well, that, and they're not trying to, their ethics are a lot more liberal than Christian ethics. They're not crime and punishment and do this or you'll burn in hell, and using that as a justification for horrible things, doing horrible things.
They're not trying to codify their principles into law.
Right. And even if they did, I mean, how many of us would object to a lot of what they want?
Their Ten Commandments is a lot better than our Ten Commandments.
Heck, even the Satanic Temple's precepts are better than the Ten Commandments.
Ten Commandments sucks.
They would suck even if the first four weren't self-serving for God. So
no shit.
But that Project Blitz is really, really dangerous. When we saw South Dakota is trying to literally erase LGBTQ people from public life entirely, that article came out, yesterday?
How are they doing this?
So Republican State Representative Tony Randolph introduced a bill that would outlaw marriage equality, permanently legalize conversion therapy, ban changes to legal gender markers, and block the passage of LGBTQ non-discrimination protections.
Jesus.
It is, if you live in South Dakota and you're watching, it's House Bill 1215, which is the third in a trio of anti-LGBTQ bills brought to the state's legislature this month.
Really, really hate these people. Why?
So the wooey crowd, it really isn't. They're not the ones pushing for stuff like this.
Yes.
So I mean, it's definitely a step up.
It's one side. Yeah.
Yeah. In go look at that stuff. It is really horrifying what some of these people are trying to push through.
Crazy.
Legal conversion therapy. Why do these people think it works?
Grief.
And why do they think it's not torture?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, because torture is justified if your eternal soul is on the line.
That's right.
And-
the ends justify the means.
Well, a short-term amount of pain is worth a long-term amount of good. So, for instance, you've told your kid 100 times this hour, don't touch the stove.
Right.
And you say, okay, fine. I'm just going to let him touch the stove and figure it out for himself. Why? Because that short moment of pain, of learning, is worth the lifetime lesson of don't touch hot things.
Right.
And also, you're probably at that point dead frustrated.
Yeah.
It's 100 times an hour, right? It's set up for it.
Keep saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if you apply that same kind of logic, assuming you accept that logic, and you may not, then the short-term pain of conversion therapy versus the eternal nature of your soul being heaven all of a sudden becomes justified. And it goes back to a question I've asked time and time again. If you accept one thing is true without evidence, how many steps away are you from this kind of BS?
Right.
From justifying torture
Yeah.
or an eternal soul?
There's nothing stopping you at that point.
Yeah. You're just a hop, step, and a jump. And it sounds like you're, incrementalism or the slippery slope.
Slippery
fallacy.
slope. Yeah.
And yet, here we are.
But here's
In
the slippery
2020.
slope codified,
Right. It's not a slippery slope if it's happening, right? It's
Right.
not that fallacy if it's happening. And here we have it happening. These people have accepted that God exists. They have accepted that their soul is there, and they accepted that the Bible is the literal word of God and should be followed to the letter. And this is probably a really, really good Christian and a really horrible human being who's pushing for this.
Yeah.
Who submitted this to the South Dakota legislature.
Intractable eel. It's just.
Yeah.
If we could take
well
something
put.
like that and kind of apply the veil of ignorance, you don't know whether or not, let's say this guy is proposing this and he uses, that kind of line of thinking, you don't know whether or not it's going to affect your family.
Right.
Right.
Do you really want to do this? Do you?
You want to risk it.
Well, it's usually the parents.
If this is something that's going to affect you personally, would you really do this?
Yeah.
Would you really do this? And, for most of the people, stuff like this, no, of course they wouldn't.
And it's all based on their stupid imagination.
Right. And this is also probably part of Project Blitz. If it's not directly, it is indirectly. And it's just, how do you justify torture?
People are going to suffer real pain for imaginary transgressions.
Right. Well, we'll stay off the whole, infinite punishment for finite crimes discussion. But, in so many ways we've come so far, and here we are trying to go back to the 1500s.
Freaking Middle Ages here.
The American Taliban is in full force and really trying to, move us backwards. So just flabbergasted at that kind of stuff.
I wish we had a palate cleanser. Something kind of funny and uplifting.
Oh, we did those at the beginning. 'Cause
Yeah,
we
yeah,
knew we were
Yeah, I know. I was worried about that. You want to use it all up now. It's
So I've got a little something.
Okay.
It got me off on a couple of tangents. So what I'm mostly going to talk about is the tangents that this article led me down.
Okay.
okay.
This is, I got this from Fox News. This is Mike Huckabee. Trump and religious liberty. Militant atheists have met their match with our president. And it says, so few politicians in Washington, even Republicans, have ever defended our Christian heritage on the national stage as fiercely as President Trump. His executive order affirming the religious liberty of public school students is just the latest example. And we all know, we talked about that last time, that amounted to absolutely nothing.
Right.
That was basically
Right.
like him saying, didn't he essentially bragged that he made it legal to say Merry Christmas again.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, he has
that
bragged
is-
about that.
That is no different than when he said that. That's what that amounted to. That's what they're talking about. This is a big win for religious freedom advocates. It's also a big win for everyone who cherishes the freedoms laid out in the U.S. Constitution, because imposing any restrictions on those freedoms, whether in a broad or targeted fashion, endangers every right enjoyed by every American citizen. And the efforts to restrict religious liberty in the public schools have clearly gotten out of hand, as Education Secretary Betsy DeVos recently pointed out. Speaking of Betsy DeVos, honestly, when Trump was first elected, she was the person that had me the most worried.
Yeah, still does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone else was absolutely terrible, and actually most of them have gone away, but right from the get-go, I was most concerned about her.
Yeah.
Yep,
and-
she's still there, like some kind of.
And she's still here, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, she's just in charge of education.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So I'm going to move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, please hurry.
Before we go down
That rabbit
the
hole.
Betsy DeVos tangent, just last year, for instance, a Utah teacher made a 9-year-old Catholic student remove the ashes from his forehead on Ash Wednesday. A Kentucky school in Kentucky, a school made a student take down a prayer locker, air quotes, she had set up so that classmates could submit anonymous prayer requests. And in Washington, a high school football coach was suspended for praying silently and by himself after games. Now,
Oh, that sounds terrible.
it will not surprise you, I assume, that they didn't provide links or citations for
Are
any
you
of...
saying that Fox News, a news company, is not providing citations for their claims?
I am
Wow.
absolutely saying
No
that.
backup at all?
Wow. Well, could we just apply Hitchens' razor? That which is presented without evidence may be dismissed without evidence?
There's actually another razor that I want to bring up in just a minute here.
Yeah. Sounds dangerous. Let's do it.
It might not surprise anyone that Fox didn't provide citations or hyperlinks for any of those. I had to find them myself. So, in order, the 9-year-old Catholic student that was made to remove ashes from his forehead.
Yeah.
So, upon inspection, that was in Utah, where 2 out of 3 people are
Mormon.
Mormons.
Right.
Identify as Mormon.
Yeah, identify as Mormon. The teacher, after the event, ended up apologizing, and she said that she thought that it was dirt. She thought that he just had gotten dirty and handed him a wet wipe and said, "Here, wipe this off. You look filthy. This is inappropriate."
Right.
Yeah.
And- And I feel like, because the way that they framed it, 9-year-old Catholic student was made to remove ashes from his forehead on Ash Wednesday. That very much implies that there was a malicious intent.
Right.
And what is that? Hamlin's razor. Never attribute to malice that which can be sufficiently explained by
Human stupidity.
stupidity, or in this case,
Right.
probably
Ignorance.
ignorance.
Yeah.
Most
Yeah.
likely.
Yeah,
I would
because
be willing to bet that in rural Utah,
there aren't
there-
that many Catholics.
the
Right.
Catholics make up a very
Yeah. When I first
small
saw
minority.
somebody with a smudge on their forehead, I was going, what the heck
Yeah.
is that?
it
And
really
there-
throws you off.
It's supposed
Yeah.
to be done on the sign of the cross, but they do it so quickly and with their thumb usually
Right.
that it does look like somebody just took their thumb and they're dirty and it does not
Right.
look like a cross.
Yeah,
Had it looked
and-
like a cross, you may have actually figured it out.
Not
But
carefully placed like the little dot the Hindus do and stuff like that. It's like
it doesn't look
it's
anything
just
like that. It looks like a giant smudge.
Yeah. So actually, I looked at a couple of different articles and I saw a picture of the kid with the smudge. Yeah, it did not look like a cross.
Yeah.
Okay.
It barely resembled a cross whatsoever. And
Wow.
this is, and again, a 9-year-old. He claimed that he told the teacher the significance of it and that she didn't care. He had just learned about what the significance was the day before, and he's 9.
Right.
I'm not convinced that a 9-year-old who just learned about the significance and doesn't really have a good grasp on it whatsoever because he really couldn't.
Right.
I'm not convinced that he sufficiently articulated the significance of the smudge on his forehead.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think that this is particularly compelling in terms of religious persecution.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm pretty sure that Catholics are the only ones who do Ash Wednesday with ashes. I could be wrong about that. I don't know of any others.
The article specifically states that Mormons, which she most likely is statistically, they don't recognize Ash Wednesday.
Right. So
if you're growing up, you're most likely Mormon in a rural state, rural area. Yeah, you're going to be insulated from that kind of thing. A little kid with the smudge on his forehead, you're going to assume it's dirt.
right. And even if he said it's Ash Wednesday, I don't think it would have occurred to him saying it's part of my religion,
So that's
which would have been a different.
That's the first thing. So the next one was in a Kentucky school, a student was made to take down a prayer locker that she had up so that other students could submit prayers. So what about that? The implication is obviously that the school forced her to do that because,
Because of the religious nature of the locker.
Yeah. They had to do it because there was a complaint by a secular organization and they made a compelling case. And a lawyer had to end up saying, hey, guys, we kind of probably need to take this down.
So what was the compelling case they made for a student creating a prayer locker? Because that shouldn't, I would say that shouldn't be a problem, but apparently there is one, just on the face of the
Yeah, I'm
facts.
curious.
Wait, say that again?
Just based on what they said, a prayer locker done by the student for people to throw letters in to have prayer requests doesn't sound like a violation of church and state as long as it's the student. So what is the argument?
The thing is it because it's using
School property.
School property, it creates the appearance that it is endorsed by the school.
Right.
Okay.
Because it wasn't a student's locker, it was a spare locker.
Oh.
And the school is forced to protect itself.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it was a student Christian organization, and they took a locker that was not used by anyone else. It was a spare. And so that creates the image that the school, and not the student organization, the school itself is endorsing that particular religion.
Yeah.
Because there's
If they had chosen one particular student's locker and it was a personal thing, assuming that there's not a rule in the student handbook prohibiting that kind of thing, that actually would be fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that actually makes sense, especially for everybody knows, like there's a bank of unused lockers. I could see that being problematic.
Yeah, and it was a complaint by Americans United for the Separation of Church and State. So again, the Fox article seems to imply that it was just
authoritarianism gone mad.
It was just internal. It was just the school had been overrun by militant secularists.
Right.
But the thing is,
No, they were kind of forced to do that because they have to comply with the law.
separation of church and state protects not just atheists, but churches as well,
Right.
religion as well. Because
Do not understand that.
I don't think most of the country wants to become Quaker.
Right.
So if you're going to pick your religion, let's pick one. Let's pick Quakers because they're nice and peaceful. And the Christians should really love them because they're the ones who started our current prison system. Of course, we have perverted it into something beyond what they wanted because it's all about punishment. They
That's
were
what
about
we do.
isolating somebody to keep them from harming their society and helping them to overcome their desire to harm, which of course we don't do anymore. But
Right.
still, I mean, if you're okay, you want to make religion or religion part of everything, let's make it Quaker
Yeah.
or Amish. Let's go with Amish. Amish is good.
You want a state religion? What makes you think it's going to be
I like
yours?
electricity though.
They allow electricity, but just very limited.
I don't like the modesty either. It's too much.
I don't know. You can really let your imagination run wild to some of
You don't have my vote. I'm sorry.
I don't blame you.
Okay, so Fox is 0 for 3 right now.
Right.
Last one.
Oh, for 2.
Yeah, thank you. So in Washington, a high school football coach was suspended for praying silently and by himself after games. What's the reality? Let's see. We have a picture of one of his silent private prayers. He is, for anyone who is listening to the podcast, we've got a picture of, I'd say, about
Oh, jeez.
The entire team and more.
the entire team,
Wow.
plus a bunch of people from the stadium, basically engulfing this guy during his private silent prayer. And so
That's
I
like
guess,
the opposite of private.
Right.
yeah. So I guess spare a thought for any of the any of the kids on that team that are maybe a different religion, or maybe atheists, and imagine being one of those kids and thinking, shit, if I don't join in on this prayer, that my coach and the rest of my team and all the people from the stadium, what's going to happen to me?
Yeah.
And,
Intimidation. It's pure and simple.
high school is a terrible place for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to be the outsider in high school. Speaking of someone who was. But yeah, it is, you don't want to do that. So I think there may be a couple of interesting things is if this is something he did on a regular basis where he went out, away from the stands and took a knee. I guess Christians can't take a knee at a football game anymore.
No.
They took both their knees and started to pray, and then other people started gathering around him quietly to do the same thing. And then the team started doing it because he was, that type of thing, that's where you're on kind of muddy ground, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But that's not what
It
that
may
looked like.
not have been your intent, but it becomes a bullying tactic.
Right.
You're an authority figure, and you're doing this, and people are compelled to join you.
Right.
And then the more people who join you, the more the other people are compelled, and it just
And I have to
gets out
assume
of
he
hand.
thinks he's cheating. So.
Right. And honestly, he's not really a good Christian either because the Bible is fairly specific about don't pray in public.
go in a prayer closet.
Yeah, go in a prayer closet, hide yourself away when you pray, and don't do it publicly like that. So
he's not a Christian.
yeah, he's not a good Christian.
Yeah.
He's a terrible Christian.
No true Christian.
And oh man,
Well, I define a Christian again as someone who follows the Bible exactly. The more
Right,
Christian you are,
right.
the closer you follow the Bible.
yeah,
So yeah, he's not a good Christian because he's not following that part of the Bible.
Right.
yeah. But again,
And he took a knee.
the way that was phrased was high school football coach was suspended for praying silently and by himself.
Oh, sure.
Right.
That is bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
100% a lie. Every single one of these is complete
is like
bullshit.
technically true if you view it from a certain perspective, but complete and utter lie if you look at the
Right.
at the actual situation.
The locker was probably the most gray
Yeah.
Yeah.
and understandable, I think. But
That one had a bit more nuance to it, but I think the Fox article was still just as
yeah,
inaccurate because
Oh,
the
boy,
way
yeah.
that they framed it was the school did this without outside interference.
Right.
So even though that one was the most gray,
Malicious decree.
Fox in this specific article was just as inaccurate about that one as it was about the other two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So,
And there's a surprise, right?
Yeah. Fox News lies. What do you?
and again, I had to find these myself.
Yeah, not a surprise there either, because they had
Yeah.
you finding the information and looking it up and finding out for
Fox
yourself.
News is garbage.
Yeah, I'm not. You know, after I went ahead and found these and saw that the reality was the exact opposite, I wasn't really surprised.
Yeah, no, who would be? And you find that a lot of this stuff is the same way when they report, atheists doing stuff. It's like, why is the Satanic Temple putting the statue of Baphomet up wherever there is a Ten Commandments? And they're doing it to make a point to say that there's a separation of church and state.
Right.
And
they are the reason why.
But like you said, what does Christians think is? Why do they think it's going to be their religion or their variety of Christianity?
Right.
That is going to be in charge.
Yeah, I think a bunch of Methodists might not take too kindly to a bunch of Baptists enforcing their particular flavor of Christianity.
Well, the First Baptist Church aren't going to be taking it too kindly with Second Baptist Church.
Yeah.
Right. They're creating the seeds of their own destruction. Their own. They will make sure that they persecute each other.
Right. And the reason the founding fathers thought that this separation of church and state, which they used phrases very similar, if not the exact same phrase, was so important was because they saw the religious wars that was tearing England apart.
Yes.
And the rest of the European continent. And they went, no,
not like they
we
just
don't want
made
that.
it up.
Yeah. They weren't atheists. They may have been secular humanists, but we can say they weren't atheists. They went to church. We can't say anything about, I don't know that they've said anything about their God beliefs, but they saw the religious wars happening.
Right.
And they didn't want that to happen, and so they created this separation of church and state. The government should be secular. Let's keep religion out of it because it just gets messy.
Yeah, I don't think we even really need to talk about the founders in making a case for a secular government, because I hesitate to assume motivations for anyone, especially people in the past.
Yeah.
Even if we can pretty accurately pick apart
from their writings, their intent.
Most likely, I hesitate to do that.
Well, we have to remember it's also encoded in law because all treaties are by constitutional considered to be law within the United States. And in the Treaty of Tripoli, it is said that we are not a religious nation.
Yes.
We are not a Christian nation. It very specifically says we are not. So they need to go revoke the Treaty of Tripoli.
If they insist that they're a Christian nation. Yeah.
Right. First.
If we insist that we're a Christian nation.
Yeah, because and that was, early. I don't think it was Washington that did that, but early.
Oh, I couldn't say.
Early in our history.
Yeah.
So John Adams.
John Adams.
The voice in our head, Mark.
We do what the voice in our head tells us to do.
He is our higher power.
Yes. At least when it comes to this show.
Yeah, he can cut us off anytime he wants.
Right. John Adams did it. So that is a founding father who put that in there. So we definitely say that they were pro separation of church and state.
Okay.
That we can't say why. I mean, we can look back and go look at the mess that Europe was in. We can look at the mess that England was in particular and go, there was a lot of religious problems. We look at the mess England was in up until, 50 years ago, 20 years ago? When did Ireland finally get their freedom and all that? So.
Oh, I don't know. I know that it was about a year and a half ago that they got rid of their blasphemy law, but other than that, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that was a good day.
Yeah, we covered that.
Europe continues to move forward, and we continue to move in the wrong direction.
Yep.
Along with the Middle East. So, but
yeah, I wonder what we and they have in common. It's a lot of religious fundamentalists in government.
Abrahamic religions.
Yeah.
Fundamentalism, yeah.
Most religious nations, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
On that note, I think, on that cheery note, we're just about out of time, and we're just vamping at this point.
All right.
So
All right.
let's
take
go
it
ahead
out?
and, let's take us out.
All right. Well, that was the message. If you took notes, remember to eat them afterwards. If our intel is still valid, you'll get another message in 2 weeks on the 16th of February. Until then, remember, say nothing, act natural.
What are we doing, man? What are we doing?
No, you're done.